Right now, as you watch this video, $100 million in drug money is vanishing into thin air. No banks, no wire transfers, no trace. In Los Angeles, a grandmother runs a noodle shop. In New York, a jewelry store that never seems to have customers. In Chicago, a money exchanger speaks only Mandarin. They're all part of it. The FBI calls them CMLNs, the invisible empire that makes the cartel's billions disappear. And they're so good at what they do that until recently, most people didn't even know they existed. This wasn't your typical money laundering operation. This was something far more complex, far more organized, and far more dangerous. Welcome to the world of Chinese language money laundering networks, or CMLNs, the underground financial empires that have revolutionized how criminal organizations move money in the 21st century. In 2023, federal investigators in New York stumbled upon something extraordinary. What began as a routine drug trafficking investigation led them to uncover a sophisticated financial network moving billions of dollars across continents, invisible to traditional banking systems, operating in plain sight, and using methods that would make any Wall Street trader envious. What are CMLNs? To understand Chinese language money laundering networks, or CMLNs, we first need to understand a fundamental problem that exists in the global economy: China's strict capital controls. Since the Chinese government limits how much money citizens can move out of the country, currently capped at $50,000 per year, there's an enormous demand for alternative ways to transfer wealth abroad. Wealthy Chinese business people want to invest overseas. Students need to pay foreign tuition. Families want to buy property in Vancouver, Sydney, or Los Angeles. This creates a massive appetite for underground banking services. And where there's demand, criminals see opportunity. The Chinese language money laundering networks, or CMLNs, emerged as a sophisticated broker networks that connect multiple parties with opposing financial needs. Here's how the basic system works. Imagine a drug cartel in the United States has just made millions in cash from illegal sales. At the same time, a wealthy businessman in Shanghai wants to move money to buy a house in California, bypassing China's restrictions. The CMLN broker acts as the middleman. The cartel deposits their dirty cash into a U.S. account controlled by the network. The broker then instructs associates in China to transfer an equivalent amount in yuan to the businessman's desired recipient. The businessman pays the broker in yuan in China, which can then be used to pay the cartel's suppliers or for other purposes. The result: the cartel has cleaned their money without ever touching a bank. The businessman has circumvented capital controls, and the CMLN has taken a fee from both sides, usually between 1% and 6% of the total transaction. No traditional banks involved, no wire transfers to trace, no suspicious activity reports. Just value moving across the world through a web of brokers, shell companies, and everyday business transactions. The scope of the problem. The scale of Chinese language money laundering networks operations is staggering. In 2024, U.S. law enforcement officials estimated that the network were laundering tens of billions of dollars annually just through the United States alone. Some analysts believe the global figure could exceed $100 billion per year. To put that in perspective, that's more than the GDP of many small nations, flowing through underground channels every single year. These networks have become the preferred money laundering service for Mexican drug cartels, particularly for fentanyl trafficking operations. Why? Because the Chinese language money laundering networks offer something traditional laundering methods can't: speed, efficiency, and near invisibility. In Los Angeles, Operation Fortune Runner dismantled a Chinese language money laundering networks that had laundered over $50 million for the Sinaloa cartel in just 1 year. In New York's gambling den operation, investigators uncovered a network processing millions through a combination of illegal gambling operations and underground banking. But here's what makes them particularly dangerous. They're not just about drugs anymore. These networks have become all-purpose financial superhighways for criminal enterprise. They're used by human traffickers, cyber criminals, corrupt politicians, and sanctions evaders. In some cases, they've even been linked to North Korean state actors trying to move money for weapons programs. The networks operate with remarkable sophistication. They use encrypted messaging apps like WeChat and Telegram for communication. They employ professional accountants and lawyers to set up shell companies. They utilize cryptocurrency and trade-based money laundering techniques to further obscure the money trail. And perhaps most concerning, they've proven incredibly resilient. Take down one cell, and the network simply routes around it, like water flowing around a stone. How they evade detection. So how do these networks operate so successfully under the noses of law enforcement? First, they exploit legitimate business sectors. These networks frequently use real businesses as fronts: import, export companies, jewelry stores, money service businesses, and even restaurants. By mixing illegal proceeds with legitimate revenue, they create a smokescreen that's incredibly difficult to penetrate. Second, they leverage trade-based money laundering. This involves manipulating the price, quantity, or quality of goods in international trade to move value. For example, a Chinese-language money laundering network might invoice an export shipment, claiming a container of electronics is worth $500,000 when it's really worth $100,000. The difference represents laundered funds being moved as trade proceeds. Third, they use a technique called smuffing or structuring, breaking large sums into smaller deposits that fall below reporting thresholds. Instead of depositing $100,000 at once, which triggers automatic reporting, they'll make hundreds of deposits of $9,000 across different accounts and locations. Fourth, they maintain operational security through compartmentalization. Most participants in a Chinese-language money laundering network only know their immediate contacts. The couriers picking up cash don't know the brokers. The brokers don't know the ultimate beneficiaries. This cellular structure means that even when law enforcement makes arrests, they often can't dismantle the entire network. And finally, and this is crucial, they operate largely within immigrant communities where language barriers and cultural factors make investigation difficult. Many participants operate on trust and reputation within these communities, rarely committing details to writing. Transactions are negotiated in Mandarin, Cantonese, or Fujianese dialects. The fight back. So what's being done to combat these networks? Law enforcement agencies worldwide have made these networks a top priority. The DEA, FBI, IRS, and Homeland Security investigations in the United States have created specialized task forces focused specifically on these networks. They've partnered with authorities in Canada, Australia, and parts of Europe where these laundering networks are also active. In recent years, we've seen some significant successes. Operation Phantom Bank in 2022 led to multiple arrests and the seizure of over $30 million. Operation Dragon's Den dismantled a network spanning 4 countries. These operations have revealed the playbooks these networks use and helped investigators understand their vulnerabilities. Financial intelligence units have gotten better at identifying the red flags: rapid movement of funds through multiple accounts, businesses with revenue patterns that don't match their industry, individuals making large cash deposits with no clear source of income. Technology is also playing a role. Advanced data analytics and artificial intelligence are being deployed to detect suspicious patterns across millions of transactions, patterns that human analysts might miss. But the challenge remains immense. For every network disrupted, others emerge. The fundamental economic pressures that drive Chinese-language money laundering network, China's capital controls, and the enormous profits from illegal trade aren't going away. Some experts argue that the solution isn't just enforcement, but addressing the root causes. China would need to relax capital controls. Drug policy would need to reduce the astronomical profits in narcotics trafficking. International cooperation would need to deepen significantly. The question isn't whether law enforcement can win this fight. It's whether they can win it fast enough before these networks become even more entrenched in the global economy.